Going back a little bit, there was talk in the Observer that initially Hunter versus Goldberg at SummerSlam might be replaced with you and Hunter at SummerSlam. Was that ever discussed? Do you remember that? This would have been SummerSlam 03.
Yeah, vaguely. Even because Hunter and I had great chemistry, and even in setting the deal for the referee for his match with Kevin, the storyline was that in each of the two previous cell matches, maybe there had been three at that point, referees had been injured, and the referees were taking a stand saying the cell was too dangerous. And then Steve Austin was like, I've got a guy. I've got a guy. So when I showed up, this is one of those things that on paper looks ridiculous. Though I have the power to count to 3, right? That no matter what happens, I'm going to be there when the dust clears and I'm going to make that count. And so Triple H lays me out pretty authoritative fashion, with authority. And as he's walking up the aisle, I go, what?
Yeah, I can still do it.
Yeah, I can still do it. And he he comes back, lays another beating on me, goes to walk away, and it's still 1, 2. It's those simple things, similar to what we did when I transformed from Mankind to Cactus Jack. Mm-hmm. And on one very definite level, I was just a guy taking a shirt off. But on another level, it was like a ghost from the past that appeared, and he sold it that way. So that's the way he sold me as a referee. So I can't remember for a fact or maybe they were thinking about that without letting me know. I think, I was getting into some pretty good shape. Hunter was and still is a great ring general with a good storyline. I think we could have had a good match.
So June 23rd at MSG is Mick Foley Appreciation Night. The little kid in you had to think that was pretty damn nifty.
I did, but this shows you how much WWE has grown, because at a certain point, they wanted to make that a Hall of Fame induction.
Oh.
Hall of Fame inductions weren't then in 2003 what they are now.
Right.
And they hadn't yet moved even to the theaters, let alone, I guess they may have been in theaters. They're out of the ballrooms into theaters, but not doing arenas.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite what it would become. And then I remember Steph saying, my dad's afraid it might look disrespectful to guys like Blassie and people of that time if we induct a guy at 35. I think I was 35 at the time. And I went, okay, so we're going to make it like a hardcore appreciation night. And one thing I regret is that Crash Holly wasn't on the list. It wasn't like I made the list. I wanted Terry Funk to be there. And Terry, went on to be a great promo between me and Terry in 2006. Terry wanted to be compensated for making that long trip. And when I found that out, Steph, I said, what about Terry? And Stephanie went, man, God, I don't know how to tell you this, but Terry wanted a lot of money to come in. And that hurt my feelings. It legit did. And we later aired it out in a really good video in 2006, where I said it was the last thing I did. I was going to get on my hands and knees and crawl over to Amarillo, Texas, and spit on Terry's grave. It was a heavy interview. For another time, another place, we'll talk about it. But it was turned into a celebration at the Garden. I wish Crash had been there. It really hurt him that he wasn't there. But I was basically just looking at the list I was given, and then I said, what about Terry Funk to add to it? But it was Al Snow, and it was Rob Van Dam, and I don't know who else was there. But it was, a little appreciation night. It was really cool.
Did the wife and kids come and everybody?
I wish they had. Because they were definitely at home, because I believe I ended my appreciation night by being thrown down a flight of stairs. I believe I did.
I don't think those sentences have ever touched in history until just now.
You can't just. That would be like having a birthday party without somebody's face in a cake. You're going to have an appreciation night. You're going to leave only getting yourself over? No, that's not our way. It's not the Foley way.
Right.
So as long as you're going to leave, you might as well get thrown down a flight of stairs. And so they had to find the hardcore belt. They had to place a call to Tommy Dreamer, who had it over his mantle. So Tommy brings it in, and it might as well be like encased in in stone, because this plexiglass is thick. It's very ungiving. So I get hit from behind. I think I said something to Flair and Randy, who had lost a match together. Oh, you really showed that. You really proved yourself tonight. And next thing I know, here comes this thing from behind. Boom. You're expecting it to shatter, but it doesn't. The only thing that shatters is part of my scalp, you know.
Wow.
It opens up that major Grand Canyon divot, and in the worst of all wrestling circumstances, it hurts like hell, and you don't see a drop of blood, because it mixes in with the dark hair, and because the angle is so quick, it's boom, and now here comes the throw down the stairs. At that time, I'm still totally against wearing any type of padding. You know, it's gotta feel real. And I end up with a deep shoulder bruise that will bother me for about 2 months. And that doesn't set in until I make that 2 hours. It's about an hour and a half drive. At that time, getting out of the garden early, it takes about 90 minutes. It took me about 90 minutes to get back home. And by the time I get home, I can already feel it tightening. And I know from experience, oh, this is not good. This is really going to hurt tomorrow. I climb into my bed. My wife said, how'd it go? I said, oh man, it was really good. And she said, can you take the garbage out? Let's take the garbage out. Come up again. She said, could you take care of the guinea pigs? It really smells up there. I go up there, and the third time I lay down and she says something else. I said, you know, 90 minutes ago, 20,000 people were chanting my name, but it's the highs and lows, right?
Yes.
You come back home and you're no big deal. And that's probably good for your ego.
Yeah.
You're treated like a big deal and you act like a big deal around your house. Yeah, I think that's, I think you deserve to be taken down a peg every now and then. I didn't need to be taken down then quite that far, but that was a tough time physically for me, because that bruise was so deep. But then Randy took that ball, and that's what and ran with it. That's what led up to my return, you know, in December. So we had this clock ticking for a while, you know. When was the date with the
MSG was 6/23.
Yeah,
June
6/23.
Yep.
So I didn't come back for about 5 months, and when I did come back, I bailed out of that match. And I'm so glad that I, stuck to my gut feeling, and that Vince trusted me on that, because had it failed, that could have been a serious blow to the way people thought about me, but it didn't.
That segment added 1 million viewers to Raw.
Did it really?
Yes. That segment added 1 million. And then Shawn Michaels and Kevin Nash against Ric Flair and Randy Orton lost 601,000. So that'll put some butts in seats.
Put some eyes on the product, at least. Yeah, well, that's nice to know. Yeah.
But even though 1 million people saw it, the missus wasn't there.
Right.
I feel weird even asking this, but you sort of alluded to it last week, so I think maybe it's an okay follow-up. But you said that her feelings and your feelings specifically when she wasn't welcome backstage at Survivor Series 96. But we saw the footage of you and your fam at Monday night or at the Royal Rumble with The Rock that we saw in Beyond the Mat and all the brutal chair shots. But this is 90 minutes from home, and it's Madison Square Garden, your dream home arena, the spiritual home of the company, and it's Mick Foley night, and she's not there. Does she still, I don't know, uncomfortable with WWE at that point? Keep
in mind that after the Rumble,
with The Rock.
several months later, 2020 does an interview in which my wife, in attempting to stick up for me and the business, tries explaining the fallout from some of the stuff I've done. She thinks she's protecting the business, but I realize it's kind of making me look. She's going a little overboard in her urge to, her hope of protecting her husband and letting people know that what I do is difficult. So when she would say he walks like an 80-year-old man, I would say, yeah, but like a sexy 80-year-old man.
You're trying to soften it up.
But they, through creative editing, that stuff's taken out. And it did appear, if you were watching and didn't know anything else about me, you're looking at a guy who's on his last mental legs, to the point where I start going through airports and total strangers who are not wrestling fans are coming up to me and saying, I just want you to know I'm praying for you.
Oh.
And now you're in that very unlikely position where instead of defending the business, you are openly admitting that you don't get hurt as bad as they think you're getting hurt.
Yes.
I said, it's not like that every day, right? They're building that case around the cell match.
They assume it's that day in,
right,
day out.
yeah. And I mean, this is part of the reason why I got out of wrestling full time when I did, because my kids are seeing these matches. I told them, Daddy never gets hurt. And now they're finding Dad lies, and Dad's coming home, with bruises and, he's having trouble and he can't, I'm sorry, I can't go out and play today. And basically, if we're having a catch or, playing soccer, if that ball doesn't come right to me, I'm not getting to it because my lateral movement, my knees are shot, especially from not wearing the knee pads and working that physical style. So a lot of things, there's a reason why I retired, head injuries, knees are all banged up. It was a good time for me to go, and I wish I had gone. And there's that part of me that wishes I'd only had the one return match. The perfect ending is you go out in the blaze of glory or ride off into the sunset like I did. It wasn't a blaze of glory. It was ride off into the sunset, February 2000. But I think everyone is due that one comeback match.
Of course.
And I did have that comeback match for reasons we'll discuss. I felt unfulfilled, and that's why I had to chase that singles match with Randy Orton. But to follow up on what you asked, even though Vince did call up Colette and apologize for making a comparison to Mike Tyson's wife, what was her name?
Robin Givens.
Robin Givens, yeah. Robin Givens. I called Vince and he said, well, I was trying to make the point that you were a sympathetic figure like Mike. And I went, but that's not what you said. You didn't say it seemed like Mike. You said my wife was like Robin Givens. I said, then I reminded him of the charges Robin was laying on Mike.
Totally different.
Totally different. And here's my wife trying to stand up for me. I did think I came across like a guy who would not be doing an interview with Conrad Thompson, 20 years later, 21 years later. Again, when you're having to explain to strangers that you don't get hurt as bad as they think you do, instead of being the guy saying, hey, listen, we get hurt worse than you think we do. It was just so contrary to everything I'd grown up with, you know. But like I said, total strangers praying for me, like I was on my last legs. But after the phone, even though she appreciated the phone call with Vince, she didn't feel comfortable in that world. It's sad.
From then on.
From then on, yeah.
Yeah.